from voices calling your name when no one is home, to landmarks disappearing and mysterious fog leading you astray. These are unbelievable glitches in reality that will leave you speechless. I heard him call out to me, but he wasn't home. From Reddit user Timely Discussion 90 comes a pretty eerie experience she had one night. So last night my husband was out with his mates. I was at home alone with the dogs. He left his house keys at home and I told him to text me when he's on his way so I can unlock the door. At about 11:30 p.m. I was reading and heard my husband at the door say, "Hey babe, the dogs didn't move," and I said, "Yeah, 1 second." I got no response. He'd normally respond with "no worries" or something along those lines. I froze when I realized he didn't respond. I messaged him and he was still out at his mate's place. The feeling I felt once I said 1 second was a feeling of gut-wrenching dread. It was like my insides ran cold and I have no idea why. It took me a good hour before I calmed down. My husband arrived home around 2 hours later. What the hell was this? It was 100% his voice. Reddit user Plastic Context 8570 shares their terrifying experience hearing someone using their shower upstairs, only no one was home. I recently moved into a 2-story apartment with no upstairs or downstairs neighbors. I've heard weird things a lot since I've been here. Footsteps, drawers opening and closing, my door slamming. But something I can't even explain just happened. My roommate is at work and I'm the only one home. I was sitting downstairs, zoned out and drawing, when I realized I was hearing footsteps and noise upstairs, followed by the noise of the shower turning on. After a while of sitting there listening, I finally got the courage to go upstairs and check the bathroom. The shower curtain was completely closed, and sure enough, the water was running. I could see the water drops hitting the curtain and slightly moving it. I heard it hitting the bottom of the tub. I know it wasn't on before, and honestly, this really freaked me out. So naturally, I got the F out of there and hid downstairs, shaking until I found the strength to go back and open the curtain. After about 10 minutes, I heard the shower turn off. The curtains move, loud footsteps, then silence. I somehow got myself to go back up, and about 20 minutes later, look in the bathroom. The curtains were now open halfway, so you could see into the shower, and the water was off. I checked the whole upstairs and found nothing. No one came down and no one went up. So yeah, just a note to this Redditor. Forget the glitch in the Matrix thing, you have a squatter in your apartment. I'd set up some hidden cameras. This was posted yesterday, so get on that. Ever had a lost item reappear out of nowhere? This happened to Redditor Dazzling Grass 7531, who said they'd grabbed their hand sanitizer from their backpack while sitting on the couch, used it, and went to bed. The next day they noticed it was missing. They searched everywhere, tearing apart their backpack, checking the couch cushions, but there was no sign of it. They finally remembered the Wi-Fi camera they had set up to watch their pets, which was aimed at the couch. Checking the footage, they found the moment where they put the sanitizer back in the backpack. So they went to check the backpack one more time, and there it was, clearly visible in the main compartment. Dazzling Grass finished off by saying, "I'm absolutely certain it was not in there. It's in the main compartment, and there was nothing else in the compartment except the hand sanitizer. It would have been impossible to miss. I feel like I tricked the universe into giving it back." One commenter said that the story reminded them of the double slit experiment in quantum physics, and that is actually a really interesting point. For those of you who don't know, this is an experiment that shows how light and tiny particles, like electrons, can behave in very strange ways. Mainly that they can act differently depending whether you're looking at them or not. So imagine we have a wall with 2 narrow slits and then another wall behind it. When light or particles shine through these slits, you'd expect to see 2 lines on the wall in the back, corresponding to where these slits are. But instead, you see a pattern of many lines, like stripes. This happens because the light waves spread out and interfere with each other. But here's the thing. If you try to watch which slit the particles go through, they behave like regular particles and you only see the 2 lines. But when you don't observe them, they act totally differently, like waves, creating that interference pattern. It's very strange, but observation seems to affect how particles behave. Basically, what I'm getting at, for the sake of entertainment here, is if this Redditor never looked at the footage of them putting the hand sanitizer back in their bag, would it have been there if they looked a second time? Or had they just somehow missed it the first time? Ever experienced a Mandela effect that only you and a small group of people close to you know about? Like, say, your car changing color, for example? Because that's what happened to this next Reddit user, Professional Ear 5923. They had a blue 2001 Volkswagen Jetta TDI, a car they spent plenty of time in with friends. Even though they didn't drive it much anymore, it did work as a hangout spot, especially since they lived in a small trailer with their family. They'd just been in the car the night before when they glanced out the window only to see that the car had changed color to green. The Redditor called their friends over to check it out, and to their surprise, everyone thought the car had been blue as well. This haunted the Reddit user and their friends, especially after they dug through old photos and realized the car had apparently always been green. So what happened here? Did a family member accidentally wreck their car and then replace it with a green one overnight, or something like that? Or could this really be a genuine glitch in reality? From Reddit user Black Widow 44 comes the Vanishing Mountains. I was living in southern Washington and would often kayak in this lake where you had a very clear view of two large mountains. I had a favorite spot I liked to kayak out to where I'd sit and enjoy the view. One day I went to the lake to kayak. As I was approaching my spot, I noticed that you very clearly could not see the two very large mountains as usual. I thought maybe I was too far away and the mountains were under the horizon or something, but as I reached my spot, the mountains were nowhere in sight. I had many very clear landmarks that told me I knew I was looking in the right direction. The mountains are very close to this lake, and before you guys say it, visibility was perfect. There were no clouds. The mountains were simply not there. It was the eeriest thing. It's as if the mountains grew legs and walked away. I had two other friends with me who frequented this lake who confirmed the entire story and can also not explain it. To this day, I am sure I entered a parallel universe or that lake was some kind of earth vortex. From Reddit user The Name Forever comes a very eerie possible glitch in the Matrix. So the other night I was driving to my mom's house. I looked down at my GPS and it said ETA 2 minutes. I look up and suddenly I'm back on the highway and my GPS says 30 minutes. No time had passed. Weird maybe, but I sometimes space out and miss an exit, though I had already gotten off the highway and was close to turning onto my road. I didn't think much of it though. Then exactly 2.5 minutes later, as I was supposed to be arriving, my mother calls and goes, "Hey, can you bring down X, Y, and Z?" I was like, "Oh, I think I missed my exit. It's gonna be a while." She laughs and says, "Funny, just bring it down." I insist to her I am not there, and she says, "But I saw your headlights. Heard your key in the door. You said hi, Mom, and the dogs were at the door going crazy." I told her to check the driveway. She does, getting scary quiet, and says, "I gotta sit down." Turns out she was on the phone with my sister when it happened, and to this day, my sister swears she also heard me say hi, Mom, and heard the door slam shut. The story of a transforming woman comes to us from Redditor Alster5000. On my walk today, there's a bit that's a wide straight path with no ways to get off the path for about 300 meters. On one side, there's thick bushes. On the other, tall fences on the edge of AstroTurf football pitches. I'm walking one way, and the other person on the path is a woman coming from the opposite direction. She's wearing light pink baggy trousers and a black top, blonde hair, and glasses. I look down to my phone because I got a message, realize it's not something I need to respond to, and look back up. The gap between us has closed a few meters, but now the woman is wearing baggy blue jeans, a white t-shirt, and she's got green hair, a nose piercing, and no glasses. I look at her really confused, and she just sort of stares at me as she walks past. There's nowhere the first woman could have turned off the path, and the speed we were both walking, the second woman was in the right spot from the time I looked down and up from my phone. This next bizarre story comes from Reddit user CGCX3, who saw something completely unexpected on their drive home from school one day. So there's a city about 45 minutes from mine. Until this past month, we went to the city about 5 or 6 times a year for the last 15 years. We always go there and back on the same road. I started going to college in this city this semester, so I've been there about 20 times in the last month. Always on the same road, 2 times a day, 4 times a week. One day when I was driving back from school, I saw a neighborhood off to my right. It's not tucked back in a tree line or anything, and it's not just 1 or 2 houses, it's a line of maybe 15 to 20 houses, cookie cutter style, in a straight line perpendicular to the main road. The houses are all facing me as I drive home. The first one is maybe 20 to 30 feet from the road. There's cars at all the houses, and they don't look super new, but they're not old either. I can tell it's on an old pasture land, so there's no trees, and there's no sign advertising a new neighborhood. I have never seen this neighborhood before. When I drove by it, I was like, what the crap? Where did that come from? I drove by this morning and I saw the neighborhood and got a sense of unease. Like, I'm seeing something that shouldn't be there. I've been racking my brain trying to remember if this neighborhood was here before this week, but I can say with certainty, I have never seen it before. Now this next one really reads like the intro to a Stephen King novel. Reddit user Abducted by Neon shared their story about a gas station and some mysterious fog. I was on a small road trip. My two friends and I were going across state lines to drop one of them off at home. It's later at night, very dark out, and no moon. We're driving down the highway and there's no cars around. We're running out of gas, so we pull over to a station, fill up. This is when it gets weird. We start driving and I glance at the clock. It's nearly 2 a.m. We're driving down the road for maybe half an hour when we hit some fog. The radio starts going nuts and dies. The place we were going to is only 2 hours away from the gas station, so we figured it wasn't a big deal. We'd just chat. 2 hours pass. No cars, no lights, no gas stations. It was like we were nowhere that existed. The fog was still around too, and we were starting to get worried that maybe we got lost. We futzed with the radio some more to try to get it to turn on, but it wouldn't. After another hour of driving, we spot lights in the distance. It was a gas station. Suddenly the fog lifted, and as we pulled in, we realized this was the same gas station. The radio turned on as we pulled up, 3 a.m., but we'd definitely gone longer than that. Had we somehow gone in a circle? Maybe this wasn't the same gas station? We got back in the car and left, but we never hit the fog again and made it to my friend's place in 2 hours. To this day, I think about that and I can't explain it. It was the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. And finally, from Always Manic comes the Vanishing Woman. I go to college in a small town. One night, me and a friend are coming back home from hanging out at a friend's house when we see what seems to be an old lady from a distance. I distinctly remember looking at her feet to see if she was walking to or away from us. We had a whole discussion about why the hell there's an old lady walking at 3 a.m. because 1, she's old, and 2, it's a college town anyway. Mid-discussion, she literally turns into smoke, fog, or vapor, and just blows away in the wind. We both see it and my friend yells out, "What the F?" And I just stand there, staring at the empty air where the old lady was. We sat up all night replaying step by step what we saw, but realized there was nothing we could possibly do or recount that would change what happened. With all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.